From deep within a gold mine in the Sierra Madre Mountains, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two men who don't need no stinking badges, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Yeah, we're closed now on accepting submissions for the new openings. We're going to aggregate those and record them shortly with Corey, and then Corey's always in the room when we do them.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, Corey. Are you going to record the new intros for us?
Yes, I am. I will.
Wow, Corey, thanks.
That's fabulous. And we have a Vox Box today.
Hey.
Not yet.
Oh.
No, not yet. And what else do we have? We've got some great new movies, great classic movies. A lot of look at Olive film. Look at this stack here, Mark.
What the?
This stack right here.
Yes.
This is all the stuff from Olive. You remember when Olive was releasing like 2 and 3 titles a month?
Yeah.
You know, Olive has just cranked it into overdrive. It is unreal. They're a machine now.
Well, you know what that means when you're a machine. Quality goes down.
It's
or
not,
does
though.
it?
It's not.
Or
They're just getting great titles. They're just getting really great titles, and a lot of it is kind of programmer stuff. It's like serials and the old John Wayne things. I mean, they're really, really just mining all of that old John Wayne stuff that people haven't seen for 170 years.
So right now there's a transfer monkey who's very happy because Olive's keeping him in business.
Unless he hates John Wayne, in which case he's just
who hates John Wayne?
I don't know. Some people hate John Wayne, like Injuns and Redskins.
Exactly.
They hate him because he's always out like messing with their stuff. Man,
their stuff and junk.
Oh, the old westerns. But in other news,
yes,
I don't know. The movies suck right now. I was on radio, a week or so ago, and it was dreadful.
Well, because it's not. What's funny is that we know what time of year this is.
Yeah.
This is the time of year where nothing of interest comes out.
It's just dreadful.
And so the fact that it's dreadful, we should know that.
But that being said,
there's good Blu-rays out.
There's good Blu-rays, and right off the top of the bat.
Yes, Wade.
Right off the top of the bat, I don't even know what that means. Am I mixing metaphors? Is it the top of the show? Right off
either
of the
one
bat,
is fine.
Off the top of the bat. I don't know what that means.
Off the top of your head.
We're going to talk about one of the a film that was actually going to be a front runner for Best Picture at the recent Oscars at one point, and it wound up not even winning the Best Director award that a lot of people thought it was going to get because we're into a period of Spielberg hate again. We vacillate. Spielberg love, Spielberg hate. Spielberg love, Spielberg hate. We're in a period of Spielberg hate, it seems, again. We're talking, of course, about Lincoln, which won Daniel Day-Lewis his third Best Actor Oscar, making him the most honored Best Actor recipient in Oscar history.
Damn right.
And Tommy Lee Jones's wig is the real standout star of this movie.
No, actually, Spielberg's the real standout star because he actually winds up tamping down much of his Spielberginess, which is really what... It's funny, that's part of that is what got him the nomination, but it's also what lost him the award.
True. That's a really good point. That's an excellent point. It really is. I'd given that no thought whatsoever.
Like most things, you give it no thought whatsoever.
None whatsoever. Anyway, this is.
I like this movie a lot. I do.
I respect it.
It's a great script, and it's Spielberg as you've never seen him. It's Daniel Day-Lewis giving a towering performance.
It is a towering performance. Now, that being said, it's not my favorite Lincoln performance. I think Gregory Peck is better. I think
Gregory Peck is not better.
I think Henry Ford.
7 years ago.
I think Henry Ford was better. Henry Fonda. Henry Ford. Where did I come up with that? I was thinking of John Ford and Henry Fonda, and I came up with Henry Ford.
The car guy?
The car guy, he was much better. When he was designing the Model T, he was going around doing Lincoln at dinner theater. It was amazing. Wow. He was a jack of all trades. No, Henry Fonda, not Henry Ford. Henry Fonda and young Mr. Lincoln, John Ford. This is where my mind was.
Be quiet. Stop. By the way, an amazing transfer.
Yes, amazing transfer. It's really beautiful. This film is shot on film, unlike a lot of other movies these days, and they do everything they can to make sure that the Blu-ray represents exactly how the film looked. The film looked, and it is a beautiful transfer, wonderful textures, great latitude, and this is a 4-disc combo pack that I have in front of me. There is a smaller Blu-ray set and a DVD that you can get as well. This has,
Now, the smaller Blu-ray set only has 2 extras on it. Basically 2 extras.
Here's
but the big one has all these extras.
It's all of it. You got the Blu-ray plus bonus stuff on the first disc. Then you got a second Blu-ray disc of tons of just ridiculous amounts of stuff. And then you've got a DVD that has all the same stuff that the first Blu-ray had, and then you've got the digital copy. So it really, from a Blu-ray standpoint, this is only a 2-disc set. The other 2 are really probably negligible or repetitive. But really incredible stuff here. Just extensive documentary and featurette material that does not just go into the movie, but it goes into the history. It really decides, what we want you to learn more about this very important thing, and so they take their academic responsibilities very, very seriously. And that's interesting because my reaction to the movie was, boy, that really was a very impressive and important film, and I feel guilty because I didn't take notes. I felt like this was a class, I felt like I was eating my vegetables, like somebody was making me take my vitamins.
Oh, the script was so good. Like it just carries you away, and you realize that you're sitting through basically a backroom civics lesson, but yet you don't care. You just love it.
I know, but I didn't love it. I felt like I was sitting through a backroom civics lesson. That was it.
And of course, it ended 10 minutes too late.
Yeah,
like most Spielberg films.
It drags on a bit at the end. But I give it all the credit in the world. It is a very, very smart script. I think it's almost too smart at times. I think people are a little bit too eloquent. I know people spoke differently in the 1860s, but I have a very hard time.
Did they do that a lot?
I have a hard time believing that Lincoln was always speaking as if he was delivering the Gettysburg Address. But look, I mean, it's a quality film, and I can't be overly critical of it because so few movies like this actually ever get released anymore. But why is it PG-13? That's what I want to know.
Oh, because it's got nothing.
No reason for that.
No reason.
No reason whatsoever.
Short people got no reason.
I know. Anyway,
no reason to live, Wade.
It's absolutely worth owning.
That was a song, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Don't sue me. That was a song.
Okay, fine.
Or sue me. It's still a song.
Boy Named Sue.
Boy Named Sue. Johnny Cash.
All very good. And a little thing here real quickly I'm going to make mention of, since it just happens to be within arm's reach, is something that I don't think this got a theatrical release. Down the Shore, the Gandolfini thing with Famke Janssen. This didn't get a release, did it?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, what the hell? What's up with this? Why are these movies getting any releases? Yeah, Gandolfini is really, really good in this. He plays a guy who runs a ramshackle Jersey Shore amusement park, who is forced to sort of reconcile himself to some deep, dark, hidden family secrets when some French dude shows up and says, I got your dead sister's ashes in this urn, and by the way, I was her husband.
Kiss my ash.
I know, right? It's this is a really, I guess it would have been hard to market, and that's a problem. Is that a lot of these films, despite having good casts and good scripts and having very interesting ideas, if they're just too hard to market because everyone has to make their money back in about 10 seconds flat, nobody actually wants to put the effort into sort of hoeing the rows and going through the necessary work to kind of mine these films for their potential over the long haul. Everyone wants to make their buck in about 2 or 3 weekends and move on.
Well, that's why Open Road is picking up some interesting films.
Yeah, but then movies like this fall through the cracks. So this is on Blu-ray from Anchor Bay, and I think just Gandolfini alone makes this worth watching, and it's interesting that he chose to do this. It clearly was a part that spoke to him, and he does a really, really good job with it. Famke Janssen, a terrific supporting part. She's doing really interesting work. I passed her on the streets of Paris about 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
She's tall.
She's getting older, too.
And looking better and just becoming a richer actress as she gets older. I have to say that. Yeah, I think so.
Although I heard a rumor she's in the new Wolverine film.
Really?
Yes, I did hear that rumor. Do not know if it's true. Have not seen the film yet.
Well, very good.
Wade, strange casting in this one. Hyde Park on Hudson, in which Bill Murray plays FDR.
Not bad. I kind of bought him as FDR.
We own it. It just takes a while to realize that this is not an SNL skit. He's not playing this for laughs. That he's really trying to play FDR.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. Laura Linney, who's always good, is also in the film. And I don't know what to make of this film. I kind of did like it. It raises some interesting points about FDR and his infidelity. It's definitely a lighthearted film, maybe more lighthearted than the subject matter would necessarily warrant. But I think this thing definitely has some charm, mainly because of Bill Murray. I don't know whether if you hired an actor on the order of Daniel Day-Lewis, whether this film would have gotten some more love or attention. It just seemed like a bit, what? Bill Murray is FDR? That's just weird. I think that was kind of the first and probably only reaction to people who saw this film.
It's very theatrical. It's kind of slow, but it's nicely done. And he's surprisingly good. I mean, is he the great FDR of all time? Not even close.
Oh, no. I mean, Henry Fonda is much better as FDR.
Thank you. Henry Ford even better. But it's a very, kind of tame, workmanlike, and intelligent movie. And I like how it sort of wraps around with the King's Speech a little bit. You sort of have, the King and Queen are in this as well. And I think it's a little interesting historical linkage there, and look, it's history, right?
It sure is.
Just like Lincoln, it's another president. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole
Wade.
Presidential deal.
It's a whole presidential nightmare thing. Wade, I have a trivia question for you.
Yes.
And when I say trivia, I mean
trivial.
This is my opinion.
Okay.
Name for me.
Oh, I know where we're going.
The best director who just did not have the career we all wanted him to have.
We're going to have the conversation you and I have had many times. Waxing philosophical about the lost possibilities of Phil Kaufman's career.
I know.
I know what you're saying. But think about this.
He could have been one of the greats. He could have won an Oscar.
All these directors have, most of them have these intense periods. We think of them as having these long, great careers, but if you think about it, the Kubricks are very few and far between where you go, wow, he made great movies in 4 different decades. Coppola exists in the 70s. He does. I mean, Coppola is 1972 to 1979. That's his period. That's Godfather 1, Godfather 2,
Apocalypse
Conversation,
Now.
Apocalypse Now, and then it's kind of over, right?
Pretty much.
It's kind of over. I mean, Scorsese, we're kind of old. We sort of start with Mean Streets and we kind of end with Goodfellas. I mean, his Scorsese.
But even that's pretty good. That's 70s, 80s, and 90s, and he winds up winning the Best Picture in the 2000s.
But he's not. But who? Anyone could have made that movie.
I'm not saying it deserved it. But
I mean, David Lean made some great movies, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 40s, starting in the 40s, 50s, 60s. Right on, and then he got his Passage to India in 1983, but. Still, I mean, the lean period is 58 or 56 to... No, it's 57, Prison River Kwai, 57 to about, 65. That's it. That's when he made, Lawrence of Arabia and Bridge of the River Kwai and Dr. Zhivago. That's kind of the deal right there. So Philip Kaufman had that period with, the Right Stuff, Unbearable Lightness of Being, Henry and June, and then it's kind of over.
It is kind of, and well, I love Body Snatchers. I mean, it's not like a great film that an Oscar-winning director would make, but it's still a terrific film.
And he also created the character of Indiana Jones. Let's not forget.
That is true.
So anyway, that brings us to this television movie that just kind of came and went, and nobody paid much attention to it.
But the thing was nominated for 15 Emmys.
The title?
Hemingway and Gellhorn.
Yeah.
And it's about Ernest Hemingway, played by Clive Owen, another actor who what happened to that guy?
He'll show up again. He comes and goes. Yeah.
He's cool.
He is cool.
He had a super cool moment, and now it's kind of like, what happened to you?
You know what happened to him?
What?
He lost out to he lost the James Bond franchise thing. He lost the sweepstakes because it was between Daniel Craig. He and Daniel Craig got the call, and then he just said, screw you. I'm going to go away for a while and take a vacation. Well,
the thing with Hemingway is that it's got some great individual scenes. I don't know that it comes together totally as a great film, but it's just nice to see Philip Kaufman back. It's nice to see Clive Owen. Nicole Kidman is I always like Nicole Kidman. Maybe it's not fashionable to say that, but I do like Nicole Kidman as Gellhorn, who is also an accomplished writer along with Hemingway. And it's just an interesting film. Again, I don't know that it comes together totally as a coherent work, but there's some great individual shots in it, great individual scenes, performance-wise, and in terms of the way it was shot. But ultimately, I don't know why this thing was nominated for 15 Emmys, but what are you going to do? Blu-ray featurettes include behind the visual effects and a making of, and there's an audio commentary with Philip Kaufman and the editor, the great Walter Murch.
Love Walter.
So Hemingway, I know. So Hemingway and Gellhorn, it's good in fits and starts, but overall, it's only okay.
All right, I'm going to do a quick blitz on some horror stuff here. And there was a pile before when I was sorting out some of the stuff we were going to talk about over the last couple of weeks. There's just a gigantic pile of horror that has arrived over the last 4 weeks, and we're never going to get to all of it. But I need to touch on a few of them. And I was trying to figure out why are there so many horror films coming out in January and February and March? I mean, it's insane how much horror is being released. I don't have an answer for that, but I will say that Stitches is pretty damn funny. Stitches is another evil clown movie, as if we needed another one, but we kind of do, because this is really, really cool. And this is going to be a cult film for a long time to come. Trust me, this is really going to catch fire. It's, evil clowns, it's kind of hard to actually do an evil clown now, because they've been done so many times before, and I think Tim Curry doing the evil clown in the Stephen King thing.
Yes.
It. He kind of capped it all off, right? I mean, he's just so good in that thing when he's in the sewer and he's doing his little walk and his dances. He just creeps you the hell out. And even killer clowns from outer space can't touch it. But I got to tell you, Ross Noble in Stitches comes pretty damn close. Really, really, really great. I won't tell you anything else about it other than this is the clown you absolutely want to invite to your kid's birthday party. Man, is that going to be a party to remember. Not if you love the kids, of course. If you hate the kids, it's a great thing to do. But definitely check out Stitches. That's from the MPI subsidiary Dark Sky Films, and it's not the greatest Blu-ray I've ever seen, but it's definitely worth checking out. And then Takashi Shimizu, who did The Grudge, he's one of those J-horror directors, did this thing called Tormented in 3D. And I had a hard time figuring out whether or not this was supposed to be camp or not. It's a little bit, Japanese movies sometimes seem to not really know if they're like they start out thinking we're doing something for laughs. This is funny, and then they decide, you know what, better if we don't do this for laughs. And then I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh or not.
Well, the ultimate is Battle Royale.
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny.
Yeah.
But it kind of there's a lot of logic holes in that film.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's put it this way: this kid murders a bunny on the playground, and I know Mark's going to check on cookies, it looks like. Okay, fine. Anyway, and then this thing takes this whole kind of phantasmagorical twist and turn, and I just don't know what to think of this movie, but it's stylish, it's creepy, I guess I'll give it that much. Frankenstein Theory from the creators of The Last Exorcism. This is an okay film. Probably should not have been in theaters, but it's worth checking out if you're a horror fan. It's predicated on the idea that what if the Frankenstein story, what if Mary Shelley wrote her Frankenstein story about a real experiment? What if it was fact-based? And this is all in the present day, and there's a guy who decides he's going to go and get to the bottom of what the real experiment was that he thinks inspired the story of Frankenstein. It gets a little silly, gets a little ludicrous, but for a movie that falls into the genre camp, it at least asks some interesting questions and goes in directions that most horror films don't. So I thought it was refreshingly a little bit more intelligent and unorthodox. Not much, but enough to be worthwhile. And then this just dreadful, horrendous, disastrous pile of poop. Mark, did you see The Collection by chance?
No, I don't like those sorts of movies.
I know you don't. I wish you had
They're
seen
ridiculous.
it with me. I had to see this. I had to go see the screening. And then they sent me the Blu-ray. This is Blu-ray and Ultraviolet, all on one fantastic, you must never get anywhere near this Blu-ray DVD set. This is a sequel to The Collector, which both of them are gift from some of the guys who did a bunch of the Saw films, and they effectively said, you know what, the Saw films were not enough for us. We're going to try and basically do even more Saw films, but not with the Saw moniker. Well, thank you, Marcus Dunstan. You are a director whose work I never, ever, ever want to see again, especially since at the screening I was at, Dunstan spent like 10 minutes reading one of his own horrible poems before the screening. It was ridiculous.
That sounds dreadful.
The idea here is this is a guy who goes around and slaughters people and then takes some of them hostage and keeps them all in this weird, dilapidated old warehouse complex where he has created like this bizarre It's like his own little living zoo and museum, and he, puts implants in people and drugs others and turns them into living zombies. And anyway, there's a guy who's a survivor, and he has to go and rescue a rich guy's daughter who's been kidnapped. And
it's all cool and stuff and junk.
Yeah, whatever.
It's totally rad.
Yeah, whatever.
It's all junk and cool and
stuff. They want this to become like a new franchise. It won't happen. It's just gruesome. It's just gruesome.
It would have happened already.
It's gruesome. It's too gruesome.
Yeah,
anyway.
But it's all cool and stuff. I love that stuff, dude. Oh my god, did you see how he killed that guy? It's so rad. I'm so glad I'm alive.
Yeah, whatever. And then also another movie that I hated, and I'll spend very little time on this. Tim Heidecker of Tim and Eric fame. I hate those guys, and I really hate him. This is a Tribeca film. He starred in this movie called The Comedy, which is anything but, directed by Rick Alverson. And essentially, he's a spoiled guy who's about to inherit his dying father's stuff, and he's just running around doing whatever he wants to do, and just being generally disgusting and vile and insulting people. And he seems to have no limits and no boundaries, and that's pretty much it. That's just a movie. It's 94 minutes of an offensive guy who has no boundaries, doing whatever he wants, and it'll make you angry, especially if you had to pay money to watch it, whether in rental or in the theater, or if you are unfortunate enough to be conned into actually buying this on DVD. I think this is a horrible, horrible movie. Stay as far away from it as you can. Tim Heidecker, please get another job. Go away. Don't ever make another movie. Leave my screens.
There's some interesting French thrillers that have been coming out the last couple of years. The one that made it to the States was Tell No One. And that caused quite a splash. And there's another one that didn't make theaters here, but it's still pretty damn good. It's called The Big Picture. The Big Picture, of course, is not the Kevin Bacon comedy from the... what was The Big Picture, like the late 80s, early 90s?
Something like that.
You remember The Big Picture. It was a Hollywood satire.
Yeah, it's Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
This is not it.
Yeah.
This is a very kind of Hitchcockian thriller that I thought was, it's pretty well done. It stars a French guy.
It's one of those French guys.
And he's a French guy. He's got this perfect life. He's got like a beautiful wife, a couple kids. Guy's a lawyer. His mentor is played by Catherine Deneuve, the great Catherine Deneuve. And but there's sort of a secret to this guy's life that I will not get into because it's going to ruin the movie. So it winds up sort of developing into this kind of interesting little murder mystery, kind of unpredictable, sometimes stretches credibility, but still it's very tense, kind of exciting, and I liked it. It's a little bit like Talented Mr. Ripley, actually, in that sense. So I liked it. The Big Picture, French film.
Groovy. Mark, some weeks ago we talked about The Hobbit, and I mentioned that they did not send us the 3D Hobbit. You know what they did?
They sent it to us anyway?
They sent it to us anyway.
Yay,
so I decided, I said, you know what? I still have pretty good recollection of what the thing looked like in 48 frames in 3D. So let's see how it looks on 3D television cranked up to 120 hertz. And I got to say, it looks pretty close, to be honest. It really does look pretty close. Clarity, somewhat, the dimensionality, the 3D effect, not quite the same. I think the 128 hertz does a weird thing, and I'd love for somebody who's a little bit more tech inclined to explain to me what that might be doing in screwing with the original 48 frame concept. But it was pretty close. It was surprisingly close, and still not as effective as watching it in the regular 24 frame. And even I still prefer it without the 3D. I still do.
What I like is that Peter Jackson had gone up and down talking about how 48 frames is going to be like the new thing.
Yeah.
You realize that I have not heard one film announced being shot in 48 frames.
No, and in fact, James Cameron it sounds like he's almost backing away from doing 48 frames for Avatar 2 and 3.
That's right.
Interesting.
Yep. What's not interesting is Parental Guidance, which is the best film from 1988 that I've ever seen because it stars Billy Crystal, Bette Midler, Marissa Tomei, and Tom Everett Scott.
That is a movie from 1988.
Well, not only is it a movie from 1988, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was written by...
Oh, yeah, Babalu and the Lowell Gantz and Babalu Mandel.
They took a pass at it, although they don't get...
They're not principal story credit.
Yeah, I don't see it there. But, the movie was directed by Andy Fickman, who I actually worked with once years ago, and is a really, really cool, great guy. But he makes terrible films, of which this is his latest. Oh. This is one of those multi-generational films where you figure, oh my God, the parents will love going to the multiplex to see Bette Midler and Billy Crystal and and Marissa Tomei, and the kids will love seeing kids, and it'll be disgusting because Billy Crystal throws up chili on a kid's face. It's hilarious. That's what kids love nowadays, isn't it? They don't.
No.
Anyway, it's funny because now Billy Crystal's playing the grandparent. And Miller playing the grandparent.
So funny.
I know.
Hilarious.
Anyway, this thing's just a piece of junk.
The Sandlot, 20th anniversary, The Sandlot. It's amazing to me that this movie, this is a Blu-ray DVD combo set. Is this sufficiently popular to have a special?
It's culty. It's culty.
It is culty, isn't it? It's weird. It's just
they made a couple sequels.
I know, it's just strange.
It took a while to make the second. I think the second Sandlot was like in 2005 or something.
I don't know anyone who loves this movie. I really don't. Anyway, this is it comes with a bunch of collectible trading cards and all that stuff. Otherwise, you just have a featurette and a trailer and TV spots on both the DVD and the Blu-ray. There's nothing really all that special about this other than the collectible cards and a slip cover, a sleeve that's got kind of a little embossed, baseball stitching motif on it. But otherwise, it's still the same old Sandlot, and it appears to be a perfectly serviceable but unremarkable 20th Century Fox Blu-ray transfer. So don't buy into any of that premium anniversary stuff. It's fine. It's fine.
The Sandlot's sort of like the baseball version of A Christmas Story.
It kind of is,
it's
right?
Like, this
That's
like
a
beloved
great
thing it's like this beloved baseball film that baseball fans love for some reason.
I guess
it's just like that.
By the way, you looking forward to 42?
I am. I think I posted this on the Facebook page, which why haven't you joined our Facebook page yet? Brian Helgeland has been awful as many times as he's been good, and Harrison Ford is not the best judge of material anymore because he's basically just horrible. So that kind of worries me, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to admit to myself it's going to suck.
Yeah, we'll see.
Why? What do you think?
I don't know.
Early thoughts?
I have no early thoughts. I change diapers all day long and get no sleep at night. That's
freaking
what I do.
Kids, ridiculous. They think they're so smart.
And while we're on the subject, and we're going to get to a Vox box here in a moment, but not yet. No. But while we're on the subject, seriously, how is it that I was trying to talk you into being on the Colcoa jury? And then suddenly, now you're not on it, but I'm on it for the third time?
Well, because I talked to them, and they said that and we were both afraid that I was not going to be able to see all the films that I was...
goodness.
And there's upwards of like 32 films that you have to see in like 2 weeks.
I know.
Okay?
Well,
now, most come on screeners, but that's okay. But
I'm not getting any sleep at night, so I'm going to... I'm going to sit around and just, at night when I'm changing diapers or waiting for diapers to be changed, waiting for the baby to scream, I'm just going to sit there and just watch movies.
But what I don't understand is I talked to the guy.
Yeah.
And he says, well, we'll pass on having you on the jury because we're afraid you're not going to see all the films. And then they turn around and tell you, well, you're not going to be able to see all the films. Welcome to the jury. What's the difference?
Well, I think I'm going to be able to see almost all the films. Okay. So we'll see how it works. Anyway, I real quickly want to blow through some stuff that is particularly timely. We did not have a chance to cover this DVD last year when it was released, and I just figure it's time that we remedy that. Nanni Moretti made a movie, a very funny comedy last year called We Have a Pope. And now that we have a new pope, I figure, why not talk about this? Did you see this, Mark, by chance?
I did not.
This is a great movie.
Really?
This is a great movie. This is hysterical. Nanni Moretti is a great Italian filmmaker, makes wonderfully quirky comedies, in addition to serious dramas like The Sun's Room, which won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, which is a really grueling movie about people who've lost a child. I mean, it's a really tough movie, but otherwise he makes really wonderful, light, frothy, thoroughly enjoyable comedies. And in this... The idea here is that there's a cardinal who's been elected pope, but he can't sort of bring himself to sort of accept. So Nanni Moretti essentially is this psychiatrist who has to help him work through his issues so he's willing to actually accept the job. It's very funny. It's a great concept.
It's like King Ralph.
It kind of is. And so, now that we've gone through all this stuff with the conclave, I mean, that's a word that we only... Do you ever hear the word conclave in any other context?
Only in papal context.
I know. Only in papal context. I love Papal Magazine.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. So anyway, it's very, very funny. I wish this were on Blu-ray. It should be on Blu-ray, but it's only on DVD from MPI. But it is a very, very fun movie. Only has one extra. It's a trailer. But definitely check it out. It's even if it's just for rental, it's a lot of fun. And then a bunch of movies that are gay-themed, which we're going to roll through right now because this was a big week if you're gay. And it'll even be a bigger week if the Supreme Court rules in some kind of favorable context on two different issues. One is Prop 8 in California, the other the Defense of Marriage Act at the federal level. But it looks like at least one of them is going down. And so it's a good time to be gay. And, I figured good time to go through some gay movies. So we got one here called, let's see. Let me thin the herd just a little bit because a lot of this is just kind of stereotypical stuff. Like there's a lot of I do have to say a lot of gay movies you look at them and you go, if you're really trying to defeat stereotypes, why are you engaging in stereotypes?
It is true.
It's very strange to me.
A lot of gay themed films are like that, and it's kind of annoying because sometimes when you see one that tries to just tell the story of a person who happens to be gay, as opposed to a gay person, it's always better.
Yeah. Well, here, this is Love, Free or Die was a Sundance documentary film last year, and this is this is from Wolf, which is does a lot of gay themed stuff. This is actually a really, really good documentary. This is the story of Bishop Gene Robinson, who is an Anglican bishop, and it has been sort of he's been like a key gay rights figure for a number of years, and has really sort of changed, I think, the religious perspective on being gay for a lot of people. And he's controversial in the extreme. Don't get me wrong, but this is a very penetrating look at him. A really it's not an impartial look, but it is it's an honest film, and for that reason alone, I think it's worth checking out. So that's one to recommend. We've got Strange Frame, which is also from Wolf, which is a weird, strange, odd, futuristic, animated, psychotropic thing that takes place in the 28th century on a moon of Jupiter, and it's really probably the most unconventional gay themed movie I've ever seen. Don't know that it's all that commercial, but it's got maybe a little bit of crossover interest. I don't know. Did you look at this? It's like a futuristic animated lesbian movie.
If I see another futuristic
right?
movie, I'm just going to go nuts.
I know,
I will
totally
explode.
Got a few titles here from Aristocle, which is another company that distributes a lot of gay-themed stuff. Luna Park, kind of a boilerplate gay romance movie. Saltwater, more honest, actually. This is by a director named Charlie Vaughn, who I think has some real crossover potential. Again, it's a gay romance, but it just feels a little less kind of in the boilerplate stereotypical realm. And then The Wishmakers, which is actually kind of funny. And even though this one feels a little bit like it's playing off of stereotypes, like look at some of the pictures in the back, the topless guys sitting in bed. It's like, But you know what? You know what makes this good? You know what makes this thoroughly enjoyable?
The topless men.
Sally Kirkland is in it.
Oh, God.
And Sally Kirkland is certifiably insane. So anytime Sally Kirkland's in a movie, I'm always there. Also from Aristocle, we got a couple vampire things. Somehow being a vampire and being gay have all now gone hand in hand. I don't know where that came from. But one is called Vampire Boys 2, The New Brood. I did not see Vampire Boys 1. I imagine it's probably pretty much exactly the same kind of thing. It's gay men biting each other in the necks. And the other one, which is essentially the same kind of a deal, Vampires, Brighter in Darkness. Same kind of deal. Gay, topless men biting each other in the necks with some cheesy special effects, but it's a subgenre now. Being gay and being a vampire, same kind of deal. And then lastly, from QC Cinema is Out in the Open, which is a documentary by Matthew Smith about basically, coming out. It's sort of trying to destigmatize all of the preconceptions about the gay community, and it's trying to be a little bit of a catch-all film. This is distributed by Breaking Glass, made by QC Cinema, and it's good. It's not brilliant or anything, but it's got they nabbed a lot of celebrities, Greg Louganis and Eric Roberts, and there are a handful of people of note who are interviewed here, and I think it ultimately winds up having a positive message, even if it's not much of a film, by film standards.
And there, ladies and gentlemen, is your gay-themed DVD roundup.
That's it. It is.
Gay
All right.
Themed DVD roundup.
You know what time it is, Mark?
It's. Well, can I sing the song?
Do it.
Hi, Wade. Hi, Mark. This is Adam Ballard from Monroe, Louisiana, and I wanted to know, what are some of your favorite guilty pleasure movies? I'm talking about films that you don't want industry peers to know you enjoy. I, for one, love the Wachowski Speed Racer film, despite it being universally reviled. I saw the trailer about a cheesy real-world adaptation of a cheesy race anime, and that's exactly what the film delivered. I'm sorry that it wasn't The Hurt Locker, but for what it was and what it set out to be, it was glorious. That said, any skeletons in the cinema closet that you'd like to share? Thanks for putting on a stellar show, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Adam. That's a really good question.
Let me tell you something. I think that the next time I'm in Monroe, Louisiana, I'm going to the Roz Cafe at 1100 Sterlington Road. Or maybe I'll go to Cotton at 101 North Grand Street.
What does that have to do with this question?
I'm on the internet looking at Monroe, Louisiana. I love Louisiana. I was in New Orleans for the first time last year for Jazz Fest.
But he didn't ask you.
Great.
He didn't ask you. He asked you about your guilty pleasures.
What I'm saying is that if I want to go to the Ronin Japanese Hibachi Steakhouse at 1119 Garrett Road, I'm going.
Oh, what?
Or you know what? Actually, here's what sounds better: Sam's Southern Eatery on 300 Layton Avenue.
What would we have done without the internet? Guilty pleasures. I'm trying to think if there's anything.
Come on, Robin Hood Men in Tights? No, Robin Hood, not Men in Tights. The Robin Hood with Kevin Costner. It's my guilty pleasure.
That's your guilty pleasure?
I like that movie.
Yeah,
and Escape from New York.
I can't think of many movies that I'm embarrassed to admit that I like. For the big example of a movie that I love, which everyone else reviles, is Strange Brew is kind of a guilty pleasure.
That movie sucks. I don't know why you like that movie. It's just the worst. Have you watched that film recently?
Yes.
It's terrible. That movie's just terrible. It's not funny. There was nothing funny about that movie.
If I didn't have puke breath, I'd kiss you. I think that movie's hysterical. Fleshy-headed mutant. It's great. Go back to the asylum. Max von Sydow's in that movie.
I know. I mean, how often can you hear a guy go, "Oh, poser"? It's just, it's not funny. It's just, "Oh, poser."
He says hoser.
Whatever he says.
Not poser.
Oh, how about this? Oh, here's one. How about Flash Gordon?
You know what?
Flash Gordon.
Yes,
I love that movie.
I love that movie
too.
Not? That's a good guilty pleasure. The one that seems to always come back and haunt me is Eye of the Beholder, which I saw at the American Film Market years ago with the original ending, which Stefanelli had eventually chopped off, and it made for a weaker film, and it got just savaged in other reviews after my market review had already given it 5 stars and declared it one of the greatest thrillers ever made. And I have people who kind of snicker at me when they hear like, "Oh, yeah, well, Eye of the Beholder." Yeah, thank you. Whatever.
See, the problem is nowadays is that they make movies that they want you to think are guilty pleasures before they like Snakes on a Plane.
Yeah.
It's like Snakes on a Plane is like, please make us a cult hit.
Yeah.
Please make us a cult hit.
Right.
And the audience has to decide that. The filmmakers can't decide that.
I agree. Well, what are you gonna do?
I don't know, Wade. Although Showgirls would be like Showgirls. That's the ultimate.
And I have to ask Andy Klein who it was, because I love his story, and he may have forgotten already. Whoever Andy Klein was sitting next to when we had the press screening of that at the National, that was just legendary. I mean, that was an epic press screening.
Was he there?
Andy was there. Andy was sitting over on the opposite side from us. And Christy, my wife, wound up actually doing a lot of after-the-fact post-production work, and not even post-production, but like kind of corporate work on that after-the-fact, and wound up with some of the wardrobe from the movie.
Oh, really? eBay.
Anyway, I remember you curling up into a fetal position about 40 minutes in, and
that was me.
And Andy, whoever Andy was sitting next to, at one point was laughing so hard he turned to Andy and said, "This is the greatest film I have ever seen in my entire life." So anyway, Mark, we got a couple of criterions here. You want to go first, or should I go first?
Whatever.
All right, I'll go first.
Should we flip a coin?
No, I'll go first.
Okay.
Robert Bresson's A Man Escaped. Robert Bresson.
We love Robert Bresson. He's awesome.
He's just great. Wonderful, wonderful director who just kind of perfected the minimalistic acting, the restrained, kind of hyper-religious, hyper-melodramatic storytelling of the 1950s, kind of a precursor to the new wave in all the best possible ways. And this is a beautiful, beautiful film from 1956 in typically spectacular Criterion black and white, and it's based on the true story of a French resistance leader. And it's an unusually kind of... It's got a little bit more flair than the usual Bresson film, and a little bit more pace. There are no sort of angst-ridden priests and dour, desperate women. This is almost more of a thriller, and yet it has a kind of a spiritual dimension to it. It's a really really powerful film, and I'm so glad that they came out with this on Blu-ray. It is beautifully, beautifully photographed, a fantastic transfer, and comes with all kinds of great extras, including a 1984 documentary called The Road to Bresson, which has interviews with, among others, believe it or not, Louis Malle, Paul Schrader, and Andrei Tarkovsky. And then there's another documentary called The Essence of Forms from 2010 that has a lot of people who worked with Bresson featured in it. It's just really, really a wonderful collection of stuff that just pays great homage to a great director and a great film. So this is highly recommended. This belongs on the shelf.
Speaking of great films, Monsieur Verdoux is an interesting film because it kind of it's one of Charlie Chaplin's most controversial films.
It is, actually, yeah.
It comes late in his career, 1947. And at the time, he was kind of suffering through a whole lot of controversies and scandals, and his reputation had kind of taken a little bit of a hit. And this film is kind of one of the first, if not the first, where there was absolutely no semblance of the Tramp or any of his, classic characterizations and mannerisms. This is just a strange little movie about this unemployed banker who is trying to support his wife, and how he does it through murder and all sorts of other crazy...
I think this movie gets better with time. This was an unfairly maligned movie for a number of years, and I think it was just really misunderstood. But I think it gets much better with time.
Well, what's interesting is that the film actually... The origination for the film was Orson Welles. Orson Welles had come to Charlie Chaplin and said, I want to make a film like this, and then... Wells eventually, I believe, had nothing to do with it, but Chaplin took it over. But it's funny because when you look at the film, it says on the artwork, it says a film by Charles Chaplin.
Yeah, that's right.
This is not Charlie Chaplin.
No,
this is Charles Chaplin.
That's right.
That being said, the movie is still, there's still some funny stuff in it. It's still very clever. It's still a lot of fun to watch. Again, I think that American audiences maybe weren't that thrilled with it, but Chaplin had more success with it in Europe, but it's finally getting the attention and the due that is finally. What am I saying? I don't know what I'm saying.
I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, what I'm saying is that it's a good film and it's
movie.
finally getting its due. So you got to at least rent Monsieur Verdoux.
For sure,
Do it.
Monsieur Verdoux getting its due.
Yes,
it's Verdoux.
That's what I was going. I was going for the doo-doo.
Yeah, that's
but
okay.
then it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
No.
Twilight Time is a wonderful, wonderful label. We've talked about them a lot. And remember, the Twilight Time stuff, what they release, they are limited releases. They only make so many of them. They all have isolated score tracks on them, and you can only get them by going to www.screenarchives.com. And once they are gone, as they say. So these limited releases, it's usually about 3,000 or so units, and 3 unbelievably fantastic new releases. I can't believe that they were able to license some of these. Christine, John Carpenter's Christine. which is one of my favorite John Carpenter adaptations from the 80s. This is just a sensational movie. This is from like 1983, that legendary year of 1983. Or was it 1982, which was the legendary year?
1982.
82.
How dare you, Tron,
you
E.T., Star Trek 2, Blade Runner?
82 is the year of Gandhi for me.
How dare you.
So anyway, Christine is just a great film. It's just a great film. And Keith Gordon, who of course had done Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, stars, and you don't see alignment like this in American cars anymore. And it's going around curves. It is. This is the ultimate evil car movie. And it's just great. It's a wonderful transfer, and they just nailed it. They knocked it out of the park with this. I am so happy that Columbia let go of this and allowed Twilight Time to take hold of this. They did a great job. And then also, this is another one I can't believe that the 20th Century Fox let go of this one. The Fury, for crying out loud. Brian De Palma's The Fury. This was his follow-up to Carrie, and it's about, psychic kids. Amy Irving and Andrew Stevens.
Amy Irving, by the way, is one of the psychic kids.
And you know what? This is an absolutely ridiculous plot, somehow made super unbelievably cool by Brian De Palma. This movie was just awesome when it was released, and those of us that saw it were just wowed by it. It features an amazing John Williams score, which really gets just amped up here to the nth degree. You could just turn the movie off and play the score and be blown away. It's really awesome. It's a totally underrated John Williams score and an unbelievably fun movie. And John Cassavetes shows up in it.
You know what else John Williams scored?
One more here for Twilight Time, Mark.
You weren't even listening to me.
I know. Song of Bernadette, which is a great movie. Song of Bernadette is the kind of movie that Robert Bresson would have made. Henry King directed this back in the venerated old year of 1943, right after, stuff like Citizen Kane and Casablanca had hit screens. We suddenly come up with Song of Bernadette, which is a retelling of the story of the peasant girl who, believed that she had, Bernadette was allegedly having visions of the Virgin Mary. And that was a big deal at the time. I don't know if you could make this movie today without it sort of feeling cynical, but Jennifer Jones, who I've hated in many other movies, is really good in this. And the movie, it dates surprisingly well for a film from that era and of this particular type. There were a lot of religious movies around that time that kind of were... They felt a little bit overwrought and exploitative. This verges on that a little bit, but it's still a very good film, very good transfer, very intelligent script, which is mostly the reason that it's good, by George Seaton, one of the great screenwriters of the 40s. And Lee J. Cobb is in this, of all people. Can you believe that?
Lee J. Cobb.
It's just strange seeing Lee J. Cobb in a movie that has like a religious theme to it. Normally, when I see Lee J. Cobb in a movie, he's getting ready to shoot somebody in the head.
You know what else Lee J. Cobb was in?
College. Are you ready to run with that? There, I set you
That's
up.
it. I'm pretty much done running with it. There's nothing else to be said. Anyway, one of the great Buster Keaton full-length comedies, and when I say full-length, this is 1927, so we're talking like an hour. College is really a lot of fun. Buster Keaton, by the way, did not direct this, although I heard a story about how the actual director, this guy named James Horn, directed it, but Buster Keaton actually hated James Horn and found the guy was like totally worthless. But anyway, don't know if that's true, but either way, it's Buster Keaton in top form. And the movie is constructed to take advantage of all of Buster Keaton's athletic abilities, because in the movie he's got to play a waiter, he's got to play like a soda jerk, he plays a baseball player. He's essentially fallen in love with a girl, and he follows her to college. And he's trying to get into the college by being like
he's a stalker.
He's
a stalker.
He's kind of a stalker, actually. Yeah. So it's really fun stuff, and again, you get to see him doing very athletic stunts. And it's good stuff. It's Kino always knocks it out of the park with Buster Keaton releases. I don't know how they do that. They love Buster Keaton, and they do a really good job. Audio commentary by Rob Farr, who's a film historian, and he's quite good. There's also an interesting extra here. There's an industrial film that Keaton appeared in 1966 called The Scribe, and Kino is claiming it's believed to be Keaton's last filmed performance. I don't know if that's true, but it's definitely worth checking out. Buster Keaton in college, and the good folks of Kino.
All right.
Yes.
I'm gonna roll through some of these Olive titles real quickly because we're running short on time. We only have a few minutes left. So and we have this gigantic pile of Olive titles. And I just talked about Twilight Time. Olive is the other great company that we're always talking about who licenses movies from other companies, primarily Paramount in this case. And this is just a huge month for them. So I'm gonna go through these because I really don't want to miss any of these titles in case people are really interested. Bunch of John Wayne titles, as they are continuing to do. They're really picking up a lot of these old John Wayne movies: Westward Ho, The Lawless 90s, Wyoming Outlaw, and A Man Betrayed. Are all perfectly serviceable. Man Betrayed is more of a gangster movie than a Western. But the one in here that really stands out, and these are all very good transfers. I have no complaints about any of these, especially considering that the elements for some of these films were probably in just crap condition to begin with. They really did a good job. But 1963's McClintock, or McClintock, with John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. And remember, the title of this movie comes with an exclamation point after it. It's not just McClintock, it's McClintock exclamation point. Directed by Andrew V. McLaughlin, who was one of a handful of directors who specialized in Westerns at the time. Great anamorphic widescreen Technicolor, just beautiful transfer here. And, John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara, no strangers to each other on screen. Wonderful chemistry, and here again, just fantastic chemistry. The movie is really a lot of fun, and I liked it more. This is probably about the fourth time I've seen this. I actually liked it more this time than I have any other time seeing it. So Wayne is clearly getting older and more grizzled here. We're just a few years away from True Grit and the Green Berets and all those movies he kind of made in his twilight years, and he's he gets better. He gets better and better and better. So this is the one that really stands out of all the John Wayne movies from Olive this week. And then other Olive titles. Believe it or not, Live Nude Girls does not have any live nude girls in it. This is a low-budget kind of drama comedy from 1995, which my wife actually worked on, believe it or not. So I saw this in a number of incarnations. There's actually one cut in here that is hysterically it's some of the worst continuity cutting I've ever seen. A woman, it's what's her name? The actress is it Cynthia Stevenson? I think in the shot.
Stella Stevens.
I think Cynthia Stevenson is the one in the shot. She walks through a gate, and then the next she's like walking into someone's backyard. She walks through a gate, and she opens the gate, and she just like says hi, and she walks through it, and then closes the gate. And then in the next shot, as she's approaching and continuing her conversation with the girls who she's approaching, she's like 27 feet further on. In one cut, she has moved it's like she's taking a gigantic long jump leap. It's hysterical. But actually, the movie is not bad for the most part. It has it's all about the differences between men and women, and you got the one woman who's going to get married, and all the women are talking, and all the men are talking, and everybody's kind of talking about the differences between men and women. And it's one of those kind of insightful relationship movies that were all the rage in the 80s and the 90s. Great cast: Dana Delaney, Kim Cattrall, Cynthia Stevenson, Layla Robbins, Laura Zane, and Olivia Dabo. Even though the movie is not perfect,
Olivia Dabo was cute back in the day. She had her moment.
Even though
see how old she is.
It's by no means a perfect film. It's by no means.
Oh no, it's perfect. It is a perfect film. It's by perfect.
It's
film.
by no means even
a flawless.
Thank you.
Film.
It's got problems galore.
There is nothing wrong. Literally, it is perfect.
But it's enjoyable. I will say that. I'm just saying, don't
it
go in.
Might be the greatest film ever made.
Oh, you're making yourself laugh, and you're making me laugh at the same time.
The perfect film.
That's what it is.
Literally, we should stop making films now.
I hear you.
We have now achieved the perfect film. Olivia Dabo is 44 years old now. Wow.
Isn't that wild? She doesn't look it. And then we have a couple of pulpy genre films that I never would have expected Olive to come up with. Highlander 2, the Renegade version. This is just, it's such a weird movie, Highlander 2. All other Highlander movies are crap. The second one is not particularly good, but for some reason, because it was also directed by Russell Mulcahy, it's the one that a lot of people seem to think is the only genuinely honest sequel in the whole Highlander saga. I think the movie's kind of fairly bad, but Michael Ironside is interesting in it. He was sort of one of the bad guys du jour back in the 80s and 90s, and this is an early 90s movie. It's like an 80s movie made in the 90s. So there it is. I mean, it's an interesting get for Olive. And then also The Running Man, which we love.
Yeah.
We friggin' love The Running Man.
Now, there's a guilty pleasure movie.
Totally. Directed by Starsky, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like the original. Screw that Hunger Games Games thing. It's all about the Running Man.
I know.
You know? Come on. Running Man is a great movie. One of the great Schwarzenegger movies. Great campy comedy. Great action. And, you know, here's the thing. Yes, Starsky directed it. True. Paul Michael Glaser, you know, who doesn't even have a directing career anymore. He should have done better with it than this. But what I love about this, not just Richard Dawson parodying his own game show persona as the host of this, you know, this violent gladiatorial
Oscar-winning
game show.
Performance.
But what I love about this, you actually get to see two United States governors go mano a mano.
Wait, you're saying Arnold Schwarzenegger and
Jesse Ventura
and Gray Davis?
Yes, exactly. Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And in that moment, you watch that and you go, "Wait a minute, those two guys, they were, wow." And then you're going to want to get drunk.
Now, Wade, let me tell you some of the other movies or projects that Paul Michael Glaser directed.
Yes. Ready? Yes.
3 episodes of Miami Vice.
I knew that.
Kazam.
Oh, the little guy from the Flintstones cartoon?
The Shack movie. He directed that. And he directed... actually, no, he has been directing a little bit. He directed an episode of Criminal Minds.
Lately he has?
He directed an episode of Criminal Minds.
No kidding.
Good for him. And some episodes of Las Vegas, the new Las Vegas. The
wow.
one from 2005, whatever it is.
Kidding.
I'm telling you.
Well, there we go.
Good for him.
And then let's see. And then I'm going to save some of these others, but I want to make mention of these last 3 here. These are great Olive titles. Even though I don't particularly care for this movie, Irreconcilable Differences, this is one of those last Nancy Meyers and Charles Shire movies that they made together where they just they brought out the worst in each other. This is about Ryan O'Neal and Shelley Long getting a divorce and poor little Drew Barrymore torn up in the middle. It's just maudlin and saccharine and horrible in 1,000 different ways, and yet somehow I'm nostalgic for this movie. Can you explain to me why?
You know why? Because we were children of divorce.
Yeah.
At least I was.
Yeah.
And this resonated with children of divorce from the 80s.
I guess so. I guess maybe because I had a lot of friends that were, get from divorced families. Anyway, Sharon Stone actually with her unshaved armpits. This was one of her first kind of big cameo moments where people were like, "Who is that woman?" Quite funny. This is also one of the last movies where Ryan O'Neal could legitimately claim to be a leading man, and Drew Barrymore is adorable. Totally, transforming her momentary bit of attention in E.T., she was not the star of E.T., and then suddenly she was the one that came out, and Henry Thomas was nowhere to be found.
Wow. Yeah, Drew Barrymore's been famous for, every moment of her life.
I know. It's true.
And she's wound up being, it seems like she's pretty well-adjusted, I guess.
Very much so.
She's become a producer, like a legit producer?
Legit producer, for sure. Yeah. Charlton Heston in Julius Caesar, William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. This is actually quite a good adaptation of Julius Caesar, I have to say, from 1970. Directed by Stuart Berge, I think you pronounce his name, Berge or Burge. You know what? I mean, it compares very favorably to
Star Wars.
No. It compares very favorably to the Brando version, I would say. So, a lot of people have problems with Charlton Heston in it. It's John Gielgud plays Caesar, and Charlton Heston plays Mark Antony in typical kind of Moses fashion. But I think, honestly, I think this is just a very, very cool adaptation. Jason Robards, Richard Johnson, Diana Rigg. Love Diana Rigg all the time. Robert Vaughn, Richard Chamberlain, Christopher Lee, believe it or not. Really an interesting cast. Very, very well-made film. Nicely shot and a terrific Blu-ray. And then the last, this is kind of, I got to say, this might even be my pick of the week. Ironweed, Hector Babenco's movie of...
Yeah,
right? Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep.
I agree.
What has happened to Hector Babenco? That guy was all the rage for a moment. I mean, it was Kiss of the Spider Woman and then Ironweed, and he made a couple of other films.
He wound up going back to
Brazil.
He went back to Brazil, made films there. I mean, the last decent movie he made was probably At Play in the Fields of the Lord was like
that kind of did him in.
That's the one where Kathy Bates ran around naked. Is that one?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
You know what? The end. When you make me watch Kathy Bates naked, you go back to wherever you're from and you do not return.
Well, anyway, Ironweed, I think, is a great movie. This made my top 10 that year. I think it's a genius movie. 1987, and it takes place during the Depression. And it's a kind of, I don't want to say it's magical realism. It's sort of more hallucinatory in the way that it puts you inside the heads of Meryl Streep's character and Jack Nicholson's character. You know, these down and out alcoholics during the Depression. But man, it's just beautifully photographed. It's so moving. Jack Nicholson is so powerful in this film, and even though it has a nasty scene where Meryl Streep gives a guy a hand job in a car, somehow I'm not offended by any of it. It just, and isn't it perfect that Tom Waits is in this movie? Doesn't this feel like the movie that Tom Waits is like it's the only movie he can be in?
Of course,
he belongs in 1938.
Any movie that either takes place in 1938 or on some sort of Skid Row, or both, deserve Tom Waits.
You got it. It's the only thing that Tom Waits is good for. Anyway, this is adapted from a novel, should point out. William Kennedy, who is himself a great screenwriter, adapted his own novel for this. And the weirdest part of this movie is that Rob Cohen was an executive producer. It's the strangest thing in the world.
He's had an eclectic career, Rob Cohen.
He sure has. But anyway, this is a great movie, a wonderful, wonderful Blu-ray transfer that captures all of the nuances of some incredible photography, really a masterfully put together film in every conceivable way. And don't overlook the John Morris score. John Morris does not really score movies anymore. He's dead, isn't he? Did he die, or is he just too old?
Well, John Morris, you see, if memory serves, John Morris scored a bunch of Mel Brooks films, right?
Yeah, he did all the Mel Brooks films. And he also did The Elephant Man for David Lynch because it was a Brooks film production. Great composer, one of the most underrated composers, and he hasn't done anything for ages. What happened to him?
That is true.
It's a great score, anyway. Great score by John Morris and Ironweed.
You're making me find out what happened to John Morris, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I sure am. Absolutely.
Hang on. Let me find out. Robert Morris. No, Robert Morris? No, John Morris.
John Morris.
John Morris. Hang on, Wade. Don't end the show now.
No, I'm not going to end the show.
Show not ready to be ended.
No.
He's 86 years old.
See, that's why. He's 86.
He has not done a film since a TV movie in 2004. But here's some John Morris films. Actually, I thought he'd done more. The producers, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, Silent Movie, all the Mel Brooks stuff.
Yep.
But he also did, what else? Johnny Dangerously, The Woman in Red, Spaceball, Dirty Dancing, Ironweed, and that's it. Wait, there's a movie called Brother Bear.
Oh, dear.
And it's a Disney movie, and it comes in a 2-disc Blu-ray collection with Brother Bear 2. Brother Bear 2, Electric Boogaloo. I just think there's so many Disney movies out there right now that it just needs to stop. I mean, wouldn't you rather just watch like The Incredibles one more time than watch Brother Bear?
I would. I honestly would.
Honestly, seriously.
Yeah.
Now, this is from 2003, so it's not like it's a new Disney film. And the voice cast is interesting. If you've ever wanted to know what Joaquin Phoenix would sound like as a Disney character, this is your one and only chance to find out, because he top lines this voice cast, which also includes Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas, and D.B. Sweeney. So you can tell already this is like old stuff. It's fine. I just don't know what to tell you. It's like reviews were kind of mixed on this thing. It just felt like it was a pale imitation of movies like Lion King and even Ice Age. Yeah. It's just not that great. So pairing it with Brother Bear 2, they really only do that just to kind of make it a little more enticing to buy. But ultimately, it's not a great Disney film.
Well, as long as we're talking about Disney, I'm going to wrap out with a couple more Disney titles. Better late than never, right, Mark? The Tim Allen and the Santa Claus collection. Okay. We should have talked about this at Christmas time. Totally inappropriate.
They should have released it at Christmas time.
They did. They did.
Oh.
They just didn't.
You seriously? You're just getting this now?
I pursued it. I pursued it because why the hell not? I just felt we should have gotten it. And, it's good for the web searches. That's my point. Anyway, Tim Allen and the Santa Claus movies, Santa Claus 1, 2, and 3, totally inappropriate to be talking about right now in March, but why the hell not? That's what we do here at the Digigods. The first one is really the only good one. 2 and 3 are just horrendous. I was just appalled. I was totally appalled. I had seen 2 before and had forgotten what it was like. Never saw 3, the whole Jack Frost thing with Martin Short, just stunningly bad. Could not believe it. Anyway, but the original Santa Claus is still a thoroughly enjoyable movie. I actually really enjoy it. It totally holds up, and it's got a short on it and a featurette, which the others have some bloopers and featurettes. Nothing much to speak of by way of the extras, but perfectly serviceable. And this is the one that I have to be honest. This came because I was pursuing this, because this to me is a more important film.
You love that.
I love it, and this just transcends the holidays. This was important for us to talk about. Annette Funicello in Babes in Toyland, which is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful movie. Doesn't have to be seen at a holiday time. Don't make this necessarily a Christmas movie. Jack Donahue directed this really underrated Disney classic that everyone kind of forgets even exists. And this is when Annette Funicello was still in the Disney shop right before she went and did the Beach movies, and which created a huge, huge uproar and a lot of bad blood between Walt Disney and Sam Arkoff. And Sam Arkoff, to the day of his death, just loved the fact that he got underneath Walt Disney's skin. It just validated him, made him feel like he'd achieved something in life. If you're not familiar with Babes in Toyland, it's based on the light opera. And it is just delightful in every conceivable way. Beautifully photographed, wonderfully acted, wonderful set design and art direction, and it's a great Blu-ray all around. By way of extras, absolutely nothing, which is shocking for a Disney release. But the transfer is great, and this is I'm getting into family films now because I got a kid. I gotta start paying attention to the stuff that I want her to watch, because when I was 5, my parents put me in front of Tora, 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 and Patton. Do I do that with my daughter? Do I expose her to Patton when she's 5?
Porn.
Well, thank you, Unky Mark. You're not getting anywhere near the house. we're bolting the doors. You're like the uncle from hell. You're terrifying.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. See you next week.